Welcome everyone to the Juris Doctor Information Evening. My name's David and I'm the faculty partner at UNSW Law and Justice. I'm here today on our main Kensington campus, which is the unceded territory of the Bidjigal people, who are the traditional custodians and owners of the land. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past and present, and to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us on the call today. For everyone joining the session from across Australia and across the world, I'm excited that you're taking the first step to learn more about the JD program at UNSW and to understand why studying at UNSW is the best option for you. In the session tonight, you're going to hear from our program director, Leon Terrill, and he's going to give you an overview of the JD program and explain about how the JD program can help you to become a lawyer. We'll then talk about the admissions process or the admissions requirements, and then look at how to apply and to be into the JD program. We're then going to hear from two of our alumni who are going to give you a first-hand experience or talk about their first-hand experience of studying the JD program at UNSW and how the program helped them to enter the legal profession. So I'd now like to hand over to Leon, the program director for Juris Doctor.
Thanks so much, David, and good evening to everyone who's joining us tonight. My name is Dr. Leon Terrill, and I'm the Director of JD Studies in the Faculty of Law and Justice. And as David said, in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be doing two things. I'm going to just explain a little bit more about what the Juris Doctor is and where it fits into having a legal career. And I'm also going to talk a bit more about some of the distinct features of the UNSW Juris Doctor. So let's begin with the Juris Doctor, or the JD, and what it is. And so for those who are not already familiar with it, the JD, it's a postgraduate degree for people who've already studied an undergraduate degree program in a field other than law. So with people with a degree other than law, or people who've got law, who studied law but overseas university. And the JD takes 3 years to complete when it's studied full time. But it can also be studied part-time, and here at UNSW, our Juris Doctor offers more flexibility than the other G8 universities in that we allow students to curate their timetable to fit around their work and family commitments. So you're able to switch at any time between studying full-time and part-time. You don't have to commit to one or the other, and you can change your study load from term to suit your work and personal commitments. So it's possible, it can be completed in 3 years full-time, but it's possible studying part-time to finish it in 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, etc., depending on your study load each term. At UNSW, it commences in term 1 or term 3, and it's primarily taught face-to-face. This is something we're asked about quite frequently. We are primarily a face-to-face faculty. We do, for the purposes of flexibility, offer some blended learning, but it's a degree that's available for people who are able to come to the Kensington campus and attend our live classes. So to some key features of the Juris Doctor, this next slide tells you a little bit more about some of those key features. And to begin, it's a professional law degree. I'll talk more about that in a second, but that just means that it is a pathway to admission as a lawyer, as distinct, for example, from a master's. And at UNSW, it's taught through small interactive seminar style classes, which is one of the distinct features of the UNSW JD that I'll be talking about a bit more later on. We have in the faculty an on-site fully functioning community legal centre, which operates out of the law building, and it's called the Kingsford Legal Centre. And every JD student will, at some stage in their degree, have the opportunity to have a hands-on experience of being in a working legal centre through the Kingsford Legal Centre. And we have a program called the Peer Tutor Program, which is a free program that's open to all first-year JD students, where we pair successful senior students with a small group of new students in their first year for about an hour each week to help them develop and to practice the legal study skills, such as case reading and statutory interpretation, preparing study notes, the skills that help people be successful in their law degree. And this year we've also introduced first year study groups where first year students can be paired, have the option of signing up to be paired to work together with other first year students in study groups, which is something that a number of students have found to be a useful addition to their study practice. We've got a wide range of other internships in addition to the Kingsford Legal Centre. We've got internships and specialist clinics that allow you to gain practical experience in the course of your degree as an elective later in your degree. And as a faculty, we've got a very strong connection with law firms, with the legal industry, and all of our JD students have access to an exclusive careers service that provides advice about employment pathways and making that transition from academic study to working in law or wherever you're wanting to end up. Now, students starting a JD or a Juris Doctor come from a variety of fields such as advertising, policy, science, commerce, media, finance, even medicine, that we find that the commencing students have a variety of undergraduate degrees. And it's one of the great things about the program is that we have students from such a variety of background. It adds value to the student experience, but it also enriches the classroom conversations. As I'll explain, the classrooms are places of conversations. It's a significant pillar of our teaching model, and we draw upon people's experience. And so it's brilliant being able to have the variety of students in the classroom. And of course, just as there are a variety of backgrounds, there are a variety of reasons why students decide to switch after their initial degree into a career in law, including wanting to make a difference, wanting to be empowered to make a change. And so you'll know that studying law opens up a range of opportunities, and also that working as law can mean many different things. You'll already be familiar with the sort of more popular ideas of working as a lawyer in the courtroom or being involved in large business deals. But of course, there's a lot more to being a lawyer than that. It can involve such a wide range of activities, everything from drafting a will to helping families with medical or end-of-life decisions, to helping someone who's lost their job, conveying property, whether from a corner store or up to an apartment complex, advising neighbours on a dispute, advocating for or against environmental approvals for a development, assisting someone with a car accident or who's been arrested, advising on the drafting of legislation, or how to interpret legislation, how to interpret the Constitution on Australians' compliance with international obligations, giving advice to a media company on whether they can publish a story or an allegation, or on the takeover of another company, helping a group of native title holders to claim compensation, etc. So it's an enormous list of different situations in which lawyers are involved. It can be a very privileged role, helping people with such a spectrum of important steps in their lives. So that's where a Juris Doctor can take you. In terms now of the profession and what the future of law looks like, the short story is that the work of lawyers is changing, but the future of law is looking strong. According to the Australian government's labour market insights, they're anticipating that the demand for solicitors, which is the main category of lawyers, is expected to grow about 20% or 21% in the 5 years to November 2026, while the demand for barristers, and I'll explain barristers in a second, is expected to grow about 22.5%. So the role of the solicitor is still the role of lawyers is still in demand. It's still on the skills priority list for all states and territories. And it's also the case that the role is changing, and it will continue to change, most obviously in response to changes in technology, but also in response to major events. Whenever there are big events such as royal commissions, which entail a lot of legal work, or big world events like COVID, which created a wide range of legal issues from contract to maritime law, insurance, domestic litigation, etc. and then also in response to major reforms. So when there's an increased regulation of an area, such as the online domain, again, that's all leading to changes in the nature of the work that lawyers are engaged with. So there will continue to be a substantial amount of work for lawyers, but it's also the case that studying law leads to more than just working in traditional law degrees, legal careers, certainly for a number of our graduates. It's a versatile degree, and it's perhaps the most versatile degree that a student can take. And law graduates, our graduates, go on to work in a range of industries in journalism, politics, business, advocacy, policy, as consultants in ID, intellectual technology, etc. And we know also that law students are recruited into graduate programs, not just in law firms, but also in several other industries, such as by government and in finance. So shortly we're going to have the privilege of hearing from two of our graduates who have gone on to work in law and who are both doing well in law. But it's also the case that our graduates end up in a wide range of other roles. This next slide is designed to give you a clearer picture of just how the JD or Juris Doctor helps you become a lawyer. So it's a law degree, and the law degree is the first step. And it's also, in a sense, perhaps more than this diagram indicates, it's obviously also one of the biggest steps. Something to be clear on is that in this respect, the Juris Doctor is the same as an undergraduate law degree. It's a qualifying degree that covers all of the areas of study that are required by the Legal Profession Admission Board. It gives you the qualifications that set you on the path to admission in exactly the same way as an undergraduate degree would, but in contrast to a master's, which does not do that. Now, the first 2/3 of the JD are compulsory subjects that all lawyers are required to study. So this is topics such as criminal law, torts, property, contracts, evidence, court procedure, constitutional law, equity and trusts, etc. So all lawyers are required to have studied those subjects in order to be able to qualify for admission. And so that's the first 2/3 of the Juris Doctor. Then in the final third, so the final year if you're studying full time of the degree, that's comprised of electives. And here we have a very, very wide range of electives on a wide range of topics. And that's where you get to start shaping your studies towards the trajectory that you're interested to take in your career. So it can be as varied as from consumer law to animal law to international human rights law, to domestic intellectual property. There's an enormous range of electives that are available at this stage. So returning to the slide, so that's that first part is the legal qualification. Once you've completed your Juris Doctor, you need to undertake practical legal training, which is about 20 weeks plus work experience. And UNSW offers practical legal training in the form of a graduate diploma, which you can actually start. You can commence in the final term of your JD, depending on how you've structured your study. And then after you're completing your PLT, that's when you're able to be admitted as a lawyer. And then most lawyers will spend their lifetime working as a solicitor, whether for a law firm or a community legal centre. But those who are particularly attracted to court work may go on to sit the bar exam and become a barrister. So that's that full picture there. So that's where the Juris Doctor fits into the degree, and that's the Juris Doctor more broadly. I'm going to now sort of turn to a little bit more about the distinct features of the UNSW Juris Doctor. What's distinct about this faculty? This next slide shows the law building, which houses the classrooms, the law library, the Kingsford Legal Centre, and a number of other specialist centres. And one key feature of UNSW Law and Justice is the faculty's strong commitment to social justice. One of the things I would encourage you to look at when you're deciding on the law school or the faculty that's best for you is to try and get a sense of the ethos of the faculty and of the way that it operates. And in terms of that at UNSW, we aim to produce rounded graduates who are able to operate in any field of law, but we're also unashamedly committed to instilling the importance of law as a means of achieving of justice for the people upon whom it bears most. And so the social justice ethos of the law will come through in our research, but hopefully also in our teaching. And as this next slide shows, in addition to being committed to social justice, we're also committed to excellence, and you see that reflected in our rankings. The faculty was recently ranked 12th in the world by the QS World University Rankings. And so what that means, what that translates into, is that we have a reputation for world-class research with some world-class research centres, and also with world-class teaching. One key difference, one that I'm particularly fond of about UNSW, is our distinct style of teaching, which is our interactive, small seminar style classes, which is something that the faculty pioneered. So unlike the traditional model of large lectures and then tutorials, at UNSW, we usually have between 25 and 45 students in a class, sometimes smaller, sometimes a bit bigger. But that's normally what the class size will be, and that is to enable them to be interactive classes. So our model of teaching is that students do the readings before coming to class, and then in the class, rather than just sitting back passively and listening to the teacher, the students are active participants in the discussion. They talk about the issues and themes of the materials and the topics that are raised by the materials. They apply them to new questions and to new scenarios, and they deepen and extend their understanding of what they first began to learn with the materials themselves. So it's a highly interactive, dialogue-based and engaged way for our students to learn and to connect. Something else that is distinctive to UNSW is our commitment to experiential learning. So as I said earlier, all of our students will spend some time at our very own community legal centre, the Kingsford Legal Centre, where you get to work on real cases with real clients while being supervised and learning from our in-house and volunteer lawyers. We also offer a wide range of other internships and clinics that students are able to take as electives in the later stages of their degree. So you can choose from a set of pre-arranged clinics, or you can arrange your own internship with a variety of organisation. And again, this is excellent experiential learning. It gives you the opportunity to experience law in action while you are studying it, which is an advantage as a graduate, not just because of the experience on your resume and of what you've learned, but it helps you also understand how practice works, including which parts of it that you're attracted to and perhaps which parts you're less attracted to. So it gives you that exposure to help you to then take the first steps in your legal career. At UNSW, students can also get involved in mooting, which is mock trials and other skills competitions such as negotiation and mediation. So, I mean, these are actually really useful, and all students have the option of participating in mooting. And then our top students have the opportunity to compete domestically and even internationally in competitions. And if you are keen in an international experience, we also offer a small number of 2 to 3 week overseas electives, some in summer, some during the year, in places such as Berkeley, India, Vanuatu, and they combine classroom learning with on-the-ground experiences in those countries. And then if you're looking for something a little longer, we also have exchange agreements with over 80 international partners spread across North and South America, Europe, Asia, etc., other places where you can go on exchange. The university is ranked in the top 30 for employer relations in that international scale. And in the last 4 years, we've been named Australia's most employable university by the Australian Financial Review. So this is the reflection really of the quality of our graduates and their success in finding employment after graduating. And to ensure that our law students are well prepared and to assist them with that transition from study to practice, UNSW Law and Justice students have access to an exclusive career service within the faculty, in addition to UNSW-wide services as well. But the Law and Justice Career Service provides advice on things that are particular to law, gives information about opportunities in the law, explains to you, what does it mean to be a tipstaff to a judge, etc. It gives advice on those steps and just helps students with that transition. So again, those are just some of the distinct features of the UNSW Law and Justice and of the UNSW Juris Doctor to hopefully help you in your decision making. I'm going to now hand back to David, who's going to talk to you about the process for getting into the JD program. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Leon. So now that we know a little bit more about the UNSW JD program and why studying at UNSW is the best option, let's take a quick look at the admissions requirements and how to apply throughout the program. If you have any questions about the admissions process or any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to pop them into the Q&A section at the top and we'll answer them throughout the call. So if we take a look at the admissions requirements, there are three key things that we'd like for you to know. The first requirement is around entry into the JD program at UNSW is based on academic merit. Secondly, students must have completed a tertiary qualification at a bachelor or above level in a discipline other than law, or in a degree in law from an overseas institution. The third thing is that as part of the JD program, we have limited Commonwealth supported places available, and these are awarded to students based on their academic merit. If you're an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person on the call, we also have an Indigenous entry program, an Indigenous postgraduate entry scheme, and this scheme is designed to help support the growth of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people entering into the legal profession. Entry into the scheme is based on selection criteria or awarded based on selection criteria. And once again, successful students will have access to Commonwealth supported places. So if we take a quick look at how to apply. So as Leon was talking about before, I'd encourage you to apply early. Applications are now open for our T3 this year, and also open for our first term in the beginning of next year. So if you're a domestic student, application is via the UAC Admission Centre postgraduate portal. So when applying through the UAC portal, I'd encourage you to consider applying for both a CSP position and a full fee paying place to increase your chances of gaining an offer at UNSW. Information of the UAC codes are listed below, and we'll send out a link as part of the call to the UAC Admission Centre. I'd now like to hand back to Leon, who is going to introduce one of our alumni.
Thank you, David, and it's my great pleasure now to introduce one of our alumni, Lauren Stefano, who completed the Juris Doctor with us back in 2018 and who was an excellent student. Lauren, it's brilliant to see you again. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us tonight and to share your experience of studying the Juris Doctor at UNSW. To kick off, can you tell us a little bit more about what made you decide to study law and to ultimately pursue a JD after your earlier career?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you, Leon. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you well.
Wonderful, thank you. Look, the reason I decided to study law was because I was looking for a career change, and I came from a very non-traditional path to the JD. I worked for 10 years in media, specifically in television, and I'd always had an inkling that I might find some reward in working in the legal profession. So at a certain point, it was viable in my life to return to study. And, you know, I guess I pursued the JD in my 30s. I think the year I started was when the graduate entry LLB stopped being an option. So the JD was it for coming to law school when you already had a bachelor's degree. I did my JD part-time. It took 6 years to do the full course. And I didn't really know at the start of my degree exactly what area of law I might want to practice in, but found that the flexibility of the way it was offered and being able to take it at the pace that I needed to around my other commitments let me work all of that out along the way.
Terrific. And can you tell us why you chose UNSW, and then perhaps a little bit about your experience of the program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just mentioned flexibility, and that was a big part of it for me. I was still working full-time when I started the JD. Having the flexibility to study part-time and also to take classes scheduled in the afternoons or evenings around work hours was really important because I wanted to be able to maintain my employment. I think also the range of options, being able to do some subjects in intensive mode and electives in the latter stages of the degree, and also being able to take subjects in summer term really gave me confidence that I'd be able to not just get the degree, but do subjects that I was genuinely interested in, and be able to structure my study around my personal commitments and my work commitments coming to law school as a mature age student. The availability of Commonwealth supported places was another reason that I chose UNSW. And I was really attracted to the range of offerings in terms of experiential learning and workplace-based electives like clinics and internships. I came from a background where I had very little idea of what lawyering looks like or can look like. So for me, being able to get some exposure to legal work environments and while I was studying before taking the plunge was really important.
Laura, it's been a pleasure watching your career since you've graduated in 2018. I actually came across your name today in a news article, but can you tell people a little bit about how your career trajectory has changed since you graduated and what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, I worked in television for 10 years, so I took a really sharp left turn into law, but I think I had my one foot in, one foot out of my previous career until right near the end of my JD. But eventually I got brave enough to leave my previous life behind, and I did a judge's associateship, I think, as my first full-time job post-graduation. I knew by then that I wanted to pursue criminal law and I wanted to work in courtroom advocacy. I also did some work in community legal centres, working in police powers and minor crime as an early career lawyer. And part of that was directly related to my experiences in the program doing the police powers clinic at Redfern Legal Centre. I went on to do my practical legal training there and work as a volunteer solicitor for a while. And since then, I've been working at the Aboriginal Legal Service, New South Wales ACT. So I started off in practice, representing clients, adults and children at courts of all levels in New South Wales. And I'm currently in a principal solicitor role where I'm leading our work in law reform and policy and advocacy, and supporting the important work that the organisation's doing under Closing the Gap, pushing for a shift of power and resources to the Aboriginal community-controlled sector, and for transformation of systems that entrench harm, particularly the criminal legal system. Thank you.
And we have graduates who go into a range of areas, but we're certainly proud of the work of people like Lauren, as well as going on to have a terrific start to her career in law. She has also put back into the law school by coming back and teaching in some of the subjects. And again, that's one of the things that we're able to offer, is to be taught by experts who are practicing, such as Lauren, who teaches back into the subjects, and who is now one of our well-regarded teaching colleagues. So it is terrific to have you here today. Lauren, just a final question for you, which is to just more generally, what advice you would give to graduates of a non-law degree who are looking to pursue an opening into the profession?
Certainly, and I'm sorry if you can hear any noise in the background here. I hope you can hear me over it. Look, advice for non-law graduates, be brave. You can do it. It is daunting. Be prepared to work hard. Law school is everything that you think it is in your head. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of reward, unbelievable reward. So, you know, you'll really appreciate the knowledge and the expertise you develop through doing your JD at UNSW. I caught you a little bit earlier, Leon, talking about the seminar style teaching mode and delivery mode at UNSW. As someone who came to law school and went back to university as an adult, I really appreciated having the interactive teaching format. I really appreciated the ability to engage with my teachers, many of whom were academics and researchers, really, you know, well regarded in their field, and others of whom were practitioners like I am now teaching into the law school. I gained so much from being able to engage and interact with such a range of peers and experts through the teaching of the degree. I think the other piece of advice I'd give is to be open-minded and try and maintain that open mind throughout the course of your studies. If as Leon said, I think law graduates go into a variety of areas that, you know, having knowledge of the legal system and having legal qualifications, whether or not you go into practice, is something that can open doors and open, I guess, your awareness of the way different systems work in various, you know, arenas and in various workplaces and in various sectors. You might be someone who wants to do a JD, you've got a really clear idea of where you want to go. Maybe you're really interested in doing a summer clerkship and pursuing a grad role at a top tier firm and working in corporate or commercial law. Be open-minded about your ideas about what sounds exciting or enticing changing over the course of your studies as you have all of those great interactions with the people that you'll meet and the teachers that you'll learn from and the subjects that you'll take. It's okay to change your mind. Take it from someone who spent 10 years doing something completely different and then thought, hey, let's try law school. And yeah, you're never going to regret the knowledge that you get from undertaking a law degree.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you again. It is great to see you again and great to hear from you. I mean, I think you're a great example of what's possible in the Juris Doctor. You're someone who had an established degree, who'd been working for a decade, right? And then was able to spend 6 years part-time on the degree, and then that's taken you off into a whole new direction. Where I say you're doing exceptionally well. We have, for the general audience, we have a variety of different subgroups, if you like, in the JD. We have some who've just finished their undergrad degree and they go straight into it and they get it done full time in 3 years. We have people like Lauren who are sort of have an established career and have decided to change their direction. And we do try to cater for that by providing the flexibility of being able to increase and decrease your study load. And as Lauren mentioned, by also making available evening classes for all of our core courses, there will be evening classes, and those evening classes are taught in a type of hybrid model where which we've introduced this year, where one of those classes will be online and the other will be in person to enable greater flexibility for the people who are also trying to juggle other aspects of their career or family lives. So thank you again, Lauren, and thank you all for your time tonight. We are going to finish up now. If you do have any inquiries, we ask that you please contact future students. Any further questions about the Juris Doctor, and we hope to see you on campus soon. Thanks again and good night.